So, hello everyone. I am Pooja and I'm here joined by Dr. John Hepburn, who is the CEO of Mitacs Canada, for this interview series for CSPC 2020. So, a very warm welcome, Dr. John Hepburn.
Thank you.
Okay, so to begin with, would you like to tell us a bit about your background and journey that brought you into this position with Mitacs Canada?
Sure. And first of all, it's a great pleasure to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to the conference. My own background is academic, standard academic. I started as a professor of chemistry and physics back in the 1980s. Spent 18 years, very enjoyable years at University of Waterloo, being a professor. And then I got recruited by University of British Columbia about 2 decades ago. They came after me, and it was an easy decision to make to move to Vancouver, which I did in very early 2001. And in addition to being a professor, I was head of the chemistry department. And after that, took a deep dive into university administration by being Dean of Science first, and then Vice President Research International. When that was coming to its natural end, because these are term appointments in academia, I got recruited by CFAR, which is a Canadian-based, very unique institution, Canadian-based research institution, international research networks. Spent very enjoyable years at CFAR, nearly 4 years at CFAR. The disadvantage was that my family was still in Vancouver. I was commuting from Vancouver to Toronto. So Mitacs approached me starting just about a year ago with the opportunity to become the CEO and Scientific Director of Mitacs. I knew Mitacs from my UBC days. It's a great organization, and I was lucky enough to be recruited and land the job as CEO. That started about just before the pandemic, about 7 months ago. I started at Mitacs, and I've had a great time.
So I do agree with you on Mitacs being a wonderful organization. It has been at the forefront of influencing Canada's science and innovation ecosystem for years now, bringing academic, government, as well as industry sectors together through various programs. So do tell us a little about the vision and the mission of Mitacs Canada, and how has the experience been so far?
Well, I've already said the experience has been wonderful for me so far. I've quite enjoyed it, working with the large Mitacs team across Canada. So the Mitacs mission is to promote innovation in Canada, and that's our driving force. We do research-based innovation, and the unique thing, the way we do it is we create partnerships between non-academic partners and university researchers. And generally we work with industry, but we also work with not-for-profits. We can now work with municipalities and hospitals. And so essentially we work with people who need research-based solutions. Our business development people find researchers in university who can provide these solutions, working in partnership with the non-academic organization. And the driving force is the students and postdoctoral fellows who basically work on research-based solutions. They do this through internships, but these are not the work integrated learning standard internships. These are truly research partnerships, and the students drive it, and the students benefit from it, but so does the industry partner and the university partner. So it's a three-way benefit to everybody.
Absolutely. It's one of the most wonderful programs of Mitacs. But since we are at CSPC 2020, we definitely have to talk about the Canadian Science Policy Fellowships, which Mitacs launched in 2016. And it is a commendable step, as well as unique step forward in bridging science and policy ecosystems in Canada. So what are your thoughts on the impact of the Canadian Science Policy Fellowships so far on the scientific and political landscape of the Canadian system?
Well, I think it's interesting. The 2016 start was actually partly because of a suggestion from Sally Otto, who's a very, very prominent UBC researcher, a theoretical biologist at UBC, who's very concerned. She's a biodiversity researcher, and she was concerned about the need to have science-informed public policy, especially on biodiversity. And so we launched the program as what we call a pilot, so small scale, we've had about 95 fellows since 2016, working in around about 47 is the exact number I'm remembering now, host offices in government. And the benefit is obvious. I mean, I think if you look at the, put politely, the flaming clown car going on to the south of us with regard to COVID-19 response, we see the impact of not paying attention to science. The impact is hundreds of thousands of people dead and completely confusing messages on how to respond to a pandemic. North of the border, although we're not perfect, you can see here in my jurisdiction in British Columbia, you can see the impact that Bonnie Henry has had on the way that policy is formulated. So science-informed policy is critical. In our own small way, we've contributed to that. But I think also it works in two directions. Not only does the public service benefit from having these very, very bright young scientists helping formulate public policy, but also scientists, and I speak as a scientist, scientists have a very, very dim idea of how public policy is formulated. In our naive way, we think, well, you just, publish a research paper and bingo, everybody understands that climate change is real or pandemics are dangerous. And that, of course, is not the way policy is formulated. So we hope we've had an impact. We're very thrilled with the outcome of the program. We've created, in addition to the 95 people who've directly benefited by being science policy fellows, we've also created a network of these people because many of them end up in the public service as policy advisors. But even if they don't, they're better informed. And we create these long-lasting relationships, and I think finally connect the public service to expertise they may not otherwise have access to. So I think it's been a great program, and we're certainly continuing it.
Well, that's indeed true. It's a very relevant program, and I am glad that Canada actually has something like that in practice. You did mention a bit about the pandemic, in fact, a lot about the pandemic, and that's probably going to be the next of my questions. So 2020 has been an unprecedented year, not just for the scientific diaspora, but all the walks of life across the entire world. How do you think Mitacs has responded to this new normal?
Yeah, it was a shock to all of us back in March when the global pandemic was declared. I remember it very well. We were in Edmonton for our one of our board meetings, and we knew bad things were about to happen. And so Mitacs, of course, like most other organizations, we went immediately to everybody online, everybody working like me from home. That went very smoothly. The Mitacs team adapted very quickly to this new version of how to work. As I say, we're a distributed organization, so we were kind of used to it anyways, but not 100% working online. The biggest impact was on our international programs. I didn't mention that earlier, but one of the ways we promote innovation in Canada is through creating international connections, through bringing students from abroad to Canada. That obviously came to an abrupt halt. And we're sad about that. We're optimistic that we can get back into the student mobility business to promote innovation, but we're waiting for travel to be safe. It had actually very little impact on the demand for Mitacs interns, which I suppose shouldn't be surprising since it's such a fabulous help to innovation for our non-academic partners. We've had an increased demand for Mitacs interns. And that was, of course, our big fear back in March was that, oh my God, our business is going to go away. But no, we've shifted to online internships initially. Now that labs have opened back up, we can do lab work if it's safe to do it. But we've had huge demand for our students, and that's good news for the students, and it's good news, I think, for innovation in Canada. Well,
that's a relief to hear, I would say, because clearly the scientific community, especially the students, have suffered a lot. The researchers have suffered a lot because of the pandemic. Speaking of which, also, CSPC has had to change its approach also. This is the year that CSPC is actually going entirely virtual. So this would be a new experience for many, and it probably would be another richer opportunity to reach a wider audience for CSPC also. So Mitacs has been a long-term partner for CSPC and has been in the previous meetings a lot. What are you most looking forward for this new virtual platform that CSPC has adopted for its conference this year?
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, everybody has now gone virtual. So we had Entrepreneurship Awards that was virtual. All the meetings I'm participating in, whether they're large or small meetings, are virtual. So it is a reality. I mean, I'm going to miss social interactions and informal interactions that are part of a meeting, like the Science Policy Conference. But I think the virtual approach, and I've seen this myself, is it makes it easier for people to participate. I mean, if you have to fly someplace, in my case, across several time zones on a very long flight to attend a conference, well, that's, speaking as a chemist, that's an activation barrier. I mean, you may or may not do that. If it's simply a time of scheduling, if it's simply a question of scheduling a time where you can join virtually, that makes it easier to participate, even if only for part of the conference. I think the main benefit is it opens up the conference to many, many more people. Basically, if you can join virtually, you can join. And I know that our science policy fellows will be there, and many other people who otherwise might not attend because it costs a lot of money to travel. It's inconvenient to travel. So I'm hoping that you'll have fabulous attendance from all sorts of people who otherwise wouldn't attend. So let's keep our fingers crossed. But I think virtual conferences have an advantage, the advantage of better inclusion. The disadvantage is you give up on the social interactions and the informal conversations.
Absolutely. It's hard to decide because both of these points are extremely relevant. You do need to meet people socially, but at the same time, the inclusion that you talked about is definitely going to be much better this year. Yep. So I think my last question for you for this interview would be regarding the opportunities or programs that Mitacs is currently working on. Any salient new program or new opportunity that has arisen because of the pandemic or without it as well. Would you like to share any of the new opportunities if Mitacs is currently working on something? And also, if there is something, or if even just for the information, is there a place or a website where the viewers can go online and learn more about Mitacs Canada?
Sure. The website, I'll start with the website. It's very obvious. It's mitacs.ca, and the spelling is behind me on my background, but it's not spelled with an X. It's Mitacs, MITACS. Opportunities, when we were given extra money from the federal government for this year to expand our internship program and avoid what Nav Baines has called a lost generation of students, we were also given increased flexibility as to who we could engage with as partners. And so we're now talking and awarding internships to college students, polytechnic students. We're able to work with municipalities, which I'm very excited about. We can work with hospitals directly. So there's more flexibility in who we can partner with and also which type of student can participate. Where we're going at Mitacs, we're of course in the midst of strategic planning and thinking about renewing our funding with the federal government. A couple of things I think you should watch out for Mitacs is I would like Mitacs to be more inclusive, to deal with people who are otherwise excluded from the innovation ecosystem, Indigenous Canadians, obviously underrepresented groups in general. That's something that we're working on, and we're going to create flexibility and programs that allow for that. Our international programs, which I alluded to, they're a very important part of the Mitacs portfolio. And so we're going to strengthen and make our international programs more strategic and hopefully integrate them better with the other programs. So I think we're going to grow. Mitacs always grows. We're going to do more internships because there's lots of demand for them. And I think also hopefully have a larger impact on innovation policy in this country, both through the science policy fellows, but also just in general through Mitacs participating more strongly in promoting innovation in Canada.
Well, we hope so too. It was a delightful interview, Dr. John Hepburn, and
thank you so much.
I'm really, really glad to have you here today. So thanks a lot for this interview, and we'll see you next time, or probably during the conference.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much for the interview.
Thank you.